Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to another edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm your host for tonight. Ron Luce is off. This is your boy, Teddy Freddy 270, Mr. Tyler Edmonds tonight, recapping a 4-3 Cub loss in New York. Cubs then drop the 2 out of 3 from the horrible Mets that essentially are playing for nothing at this point. But Tyler, before we get to all of that, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. It's like we talked about before the show. Life, it seems like life for both of us has been really busy, man. But it's good to see you. Like me and Ron was talking yesterday. It's good to see you, man. Good to talk to you. I'm just glad to be back in here with you talking baseball, man.
Yeah, talking about a Cubs loss, unfortunately, the Cubs dropped this Kyle Hendricks start 4-3, make some noise in the ninth, but unfortunately were unable to push across another run to extend the ball game. Over the course of the game, we'll just recap real quick. Morel hits a home run in the first. The Cubs then score a couple. Seiya Suzuki had a nice night. And in the ninth inning, which is what I think we'll talk a lot about, the Cubs put on a traffic worth of bases and are only able to push through one on the Seiya Suzuki home run. Let's recap what happened in the bottom of the ninth. They get runners on first and second. Then they decide to bunt with Nick Madrigal to move them to second and third, giving up an out. Morel strikes out looking, followed by a walk to Nico Hoerner to load the bases. After that, Ian Happ batting in the 3-hole, strikes out swinging, and that's all she wrote. Tyler, I was talking a little bit with you prior to the show here, and I think the one point of conversation two points we're going to kind of talk about is lineup construction and what you do in that ninth in terms of situational hitting and situational managing, which I think is up for debate on how you approach that ninth inning. What was your opinion on the ninth, and what did you think was the one at bat that kind of screwed the whole thing?
Well, let's also not forget the Seiya Suzuki leadoff yes. Homer in the ninth too. Dude, 3-hit ninth, nice for him. But yeah, man, it's the magical at bat. It's the bunt. The guys put the ball in play all season long. Me and Ron talked about it yesterday about how we both were kind of not really on the Nick Madrigal train before the season started, and he's pretty much proved us wrong. And we even talked about the importance of guys putting the ball in play, and Nick Madrigal is one of those guys that's put the ball in play this season. You get guys on first and second, no outs, 1-run game, and you bunt right there. I didn't like it, especially with Morel up to bat. Yeah, Morel hit a home run at the beginning of the game, but he's also been known to strike out a lot. He's still young. He does have experience, but not as experienced as maybe other hitters that we may have had on the bench. You talked about one before the show. We may be talking Yan Gomes. But, yeah, I didn't like it right there because you take the bat out of Madrigal's hand. That's 1 out. Morel, that almost puts more pressure on Morel. It almost seems like once Morel came up, he was trying to hit that 3-run bomb and gets caught looking at a fastball right down the middle. 2 outs. Next thing you know, ball game. But this is one of those games. I don't want to say, oh man, this is going to make or break this season, but this is one of those games this time of year when you get this opportunity to take a lead and get this win, steal this win, honestly, because the offense up until the ninth really wasn't clicking that much. You had the first inning, and after that, really nothing. This is one of those games that, especially this time of year, as close as the division race is, the playoff hunt, the wild card chase, all that stuff, this is one of those games you really got to capitalize on those opportunities. And tonight, didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the bunt is something that it works on two folds. One, you hand them an out in the ninth. And I've always thought my opinion on bunting is I'm fine with bunting when you're adding on insurance runs. I'm not okay with bunting when you're chasing. You shouldn't just be giving up outs when you're behind in the ball game. I'm all for it's 3-2 in the top of the ninth, and you're the home team, or they're the bottom of the eighth, and you're the home team, and they're going to bat, in the bottom of the top of the ninth, and it's 4-3 and it's close, and you're trying to add that fifth run. I'm fine with that. That's fine. I'm not okay with you got pitchers on the ropes and two pitchers. Ottavino
didn't have it tonight.
Was horrible. And I'm blanking on the guy they brought in after, but I
get you right here. They
were talking too about how he was struggling finding the strike zone as well. Girardi and
Bickford.
So Bickford, when he comes in, I thought that he was struggling over the course of the year to find the strike zone, and you're handing him an out.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much telling him at that point, you just got to get Morel, right? Because then you're just protecting against the base hit. I also thought too on the back end of it, by Madrigal bunting, it allowed first base to open and for them to work around Nico Horner.
Exactly.
Exactly. He never even got a pitch to hit in that sequence because why would you? That's the guy that is going to poke it through the base. Yeah, 100%. So I thought it allowed them to, on twofold, to get an out and to pitch around Nico in that spot because there's a base open.
And honestly, let's say Magical does hit into a double play right there. The game's still not over. You got the tying run still on third, and maybe Morel gets pinch hit for. Maybe a Jan Gomes comes in or whatever. But it's not like the game's over. A wild pitch ties the game. A base hit ties the game. So yeah, I agree, man. It's just, I just hope this is not one of those games at the end of this season we're back talking about.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility, although looking at their schedule, it's clear that they're just going to have to beat the Brewers and the Reds in their series to hop these teams. It's all about staying in the hunt and making sure that you're close and playing good baseball. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, they play, they have a tough series coming up against Toronto. But
after that,
it's pretty easy. The Sox, the Royals, the Tigers, you have that nice AL Central tour, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then a nice 3-game or 4-game set with the Brewers, 3-game set followed by the Reds, which I kind of like that's sandwiched back-to-back. I know we're looking ahead a little further, but it'll be a week's worth of very close, tight playoff baseball. Be really tough for them to lose focus. I want to ask you a question regarding this trip, and I thought that this was the prime candidate for like a 2-out-of-3 loss or a sweep because it's got to be tough for them to play those high leverage games against the Reds and Atlanta and then to get up to play the Mets. I know that's not easy to do from a player standpoint when you are playing at home and things are going well, but I wonder if some of their offensive woes were just based on the fact that there's no atmosphere in that ballpark and it's easy to overlook that opponent. They shouldn't, but I thought it was a prime series for that. What do you think?
Yeah, that may have been an issue. It may have been a thing that you're coming off the high of beating the Braves in a series that you wasn't expected to maybe win one game and that's it. And maybe it's a case of like you said, maybe it is the case of the travel, or maybe it's a case of you're coming off this high and you're coming into the Mets stadium thinking okay, we got this. We just beat the Braves. We're playing a Mets team that has Pete Alonso, and that's about it. A Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil, all right, basically Pete Alonso against at least two of the guys. Kodai Senga was great, but Carrasco and the lefty that pitched tonight, two guys that probably should have teed off on. And maybe it was just a case of I don't want to say overlooking the opponent, but maybe a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, it sucks.
It does. It's a matter of like you said, you just hope that one of these games doesn't come back to haunt you because it's possible. David Peterson, by the way,
David
left
Peterson, sorry. It just
left.
it's
And I mean,
especially
he only went 3 2/3 today, and then they couldn't do anything against their bullpen until Ottavino on the ninth, which is another thing too. Like the Mets, not the best bullpen. That should have been one of those that you're having more traffic on the bases. I thought that those middle innings meant a lot. It allowed the Pete Alonso to do Pete Alonso things like he did over the course of this series.
God.
He's a beast, man. I know you're not a huge fan of him, but man, next year if the Mets are going to do this full sell-off thing, that man would look so great at first base.
If he was on the Cubs, I could handle it. I could deal with it. But yeah, he's a Cub killer. He's a Cub killer like, dare I say, I know Cubs fans are going to cringe when they hear this guy's name. Is he a Cub killer like Ryan Braun was a Cub killer?
Oh, yeah.
God, yeah. At least at Wrigley. Jesus.
Daniel Murphy.
I'm just glad we don't have to see him anymore this season.
Yeah, he ate up the Cubs pitching over the course of the year. Maybe that's a sign that he's hitting bombs on the north side next year. It'd be kind of cool to shore up the first base side of it. They definitely need it, and I'm sure Pete Alonso would be welcomed on the north side. Tyler, the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about in terms of that ninth inning was just that at bat from Morel and more at depth, man, because that's just one of those that you get a young player up there in a moment of just high leverage, need it, and he's trying to do too much. And that's just, as he ages, I feel like he'll learn to put the bat on the ball because that's really, realistically, that's really all he needed to do was to, if he puts that ball in play, there's a good chance that it's somewhere to where they were going to test an arm of somebody or it's on the ground and it's a better result than the strikeout. At least you're giving it a chance for that run to cross if they're, putting the ball in play. Strikeout does nothing for you there. And I know that we talked about the bunt and how we hated it, but at the end of the day, that Morel at bat hurts because you do have two runners in scoring position with one out, and you're just looking for a productive out. Do you think that that's a player thing that as you age, you learn how to do those situations better? Or do you feel like that's just who he is, where he's just going to go 100 miles an hour no matter what, where, we've seen guys like that, like Javi Baez. It's electric when it's working, but they don't have that like shift down here.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of as he ages, maybe maturing a little bit more. And I don't mean that as a knock on Christopher Morel. I think it's more of just understanding the situation. I mean, he's a young guy. He's a young player, but it's like you said before the show. Maybe throw Yan Gomes in that situation. A more veteran guy that I get it, trying to get Morel experience, but in this situation, this part of the season, yeah, he did have the home run at the beginning of the game, but with his, I guess maybe over-aggressiveness sometimes, it just doesn't work in that situation. So maybe, I don't know, do you put any blame on David Ross for this in that situation? I mean, obviously the bunt, but leaving Morel in the game right there, do you? Is there a part of you that says, "Hey, Ross, come on"?
I think there's both sides of that coin, and I hate to play, both sides. We're on a podcast here. I'm supposed to have opinions, but I could see where his head is, where he needs a fly ball. Morel, with authority, can do that and get it deep enough to where you're not testing. And I'm not going to say that Candelario is slow. He's not. He's a good runner. But, it's not like having, Nico Horner on third, or that's not the speed that you're looking at there. I think that it still would have taken a fairly deep fly ball to get there, but I think the thought process is he homered tonight. He hit one with authority. He's put together good at bats. I can't say that he hasn't over the course of the last couple weeks. So I get it, but I also too get like the side of the coin that we were talking about earlier, where I want a veteran guy in that spot. The bunt throws that inning all off for me because it just they had the Mets then had a clear path to getting out of that inning without giving up another run. You get Morel, you pitch around Nico, and then you flip the script with Happ, who I love, but that matchup just didn't seem like it was going to be his. To high fastballs, the whole at bat. You figured he wasn't going to be able to get on top of one. They were never going to pitch him low in the zone or anything off speed. They were going to let him.
That first fastball, that's all he's seeing is high fastballs.
Mm-hmm. And he never looked like he ever was catching up. Even the foul balls were lazy, late emergency hacks. It was a pretty. I almost came here and fired up the stream before his at bat was even over, because after seeing that first swing, I was like, man, this looks like this is going to end in a K. And that's tough. Hitting his 94, 95 mile an hour fastball is not easy. We're not sitting here on the show saying that, he should have came through there. We hoped he came through, but you got to give more slices. You got to get more, hits at the pinata, right? In my opinion, it was the minute that you bunted with Madrigal, and hey, props to him for getting the bunt down. It was you gave an extra out that you realistically, in the end, you needed. How easy is it for Happ to shorten up on that 94 mile an hour fastball and put the ball in play with one out? Maybe they're loaded for Happ, or maybe they're loaded for Morel with or for Nico with one out. That's a possibility too.
It's like you said, that bunt basically took the bat out of Nico's hands.
Yeah, and you can't have that from arguably.
Once Morel got out, but it's like right after that, that bunt took the bat out of Nico's hands.
Yeah, and Nico's not the guy either who's going to pick out a fastball that's off the plate and rip it down the line either. That's just not. He's disciplined. He likes to see pitches, and I didn't agree with it then. I still don't agree with it. I'm fine if they're in the lead and they're trying to add an extra run, but when you're trailing, giving up outs, just to me, it never made sense. And I mean, we're probably all talking great about the bunt if Christopher Morel hammers one out in the outfield and Adbert comes in and closes it out, and it's a different show. But it's with Morel's strikeout rate, it just doesn't. It didn't make sense there. It just really did. So before we close the door on this one, I want to talk lineup construction in terms of, we were talking a little bit off air about having no Mike Tauchman in the lineup today. I know they wanted to get Seiya Suzuki in the lineup, but having P. Wizzy in there as well, to me, that lineup towards the bottom never made sense. I was fine with Morel in the leadoff spot. And obviously
he hasn't been bad in the leadoff spot this year. I think he's 8 for 22 or 8 for 23, something like that.
Yeah, I was fine with that. I was fine with, Seiya playing today. I thought it was a good time to bring him back. I thought that it was the lineup around, that one, but having no Mike Tauchman, just does not make much sense to me.
Yeah, especially coming off a night where he hit a clutch home run. He's on a high right now. Throw him back in there. To be honest, speaking of Mike Tauchman, I don't know if maybe it's the people want to say stuff. Well, the lefty on lefty matchup this season in 33 games, Mike Tauchman against left-handed pitching. Well, let me just give you versus right-handed pitching. He's batting 287, slash line 287, 375, 449. Lefties 270, 372, 405. Pretty similar.
Yeah.
So like, why not? And I agree. I'm wisdom, man. At this point, why start him tonight? I get it. There's a lefty up, but it's like you talked about before. You were saying it before the show. Why not throw Bailey at first base tonight?
I don't understand what their big problem is with Candelario at third and Belly at first. While Tauchman is hitting, that should be the lineup. And until he can't, it should be Belly at first. I know there's the run saved argument that his best position is center field, but the Cubs have somebody who's producing at a level that you can't leave him out of the lineup.
Yeah.
You just can't, especially in a rubber game. Like if this were getaway day and you won Monday and Tuesday, you can run that lineup out there.
No.
But essentially by playing P-Wizzy tonight, you gave up 2 at-bats. Mm-hmm. And I know Scott's going to hate me for saying it, but if Patrick Wisdom's going to play against lefties seldomly, he's just holding up a roster spot at this point. Yeah. Candelario at first, that's fine. Nick Madrigal at third every once in a while, I'm fine with it. But Patrick Wisdom just he hasn't done enough to warrant that roster spot consistently. Yeah, he hits home runs every once in a while. It's great. He runs into one. But does he bring you enough of the consistency to warrant having that in the lineup daily? In my opinion, not daily, but even at the point where he's at now and having it on the roster, no. I don't see a spot for him. There's no pinch hitting role for that because they're carrying 3 catchers.
Yeah.
To me, it becomes a decision between Tucker Barnhart and Patrick Wisdom because you could either carry 3 catchers and have that mess that's going on, and Barnhart only plays again with, every once in a while with a couple of the pitchers that seem to like to throw to Barnhart for some reason. But I don't get it. Maya has played well enough to keep his spot. You've seen Yan Gomes as the leader, but that should be it. To me, that's it. Or you're going to move on from Patrick Wisdom and bring somebody else up who puts the bat on the ball like Madrigal more often than not. Yeah. I think, and that's what hurts. That's what hurts tonight. When you run out 2 at-bats like that result in nothing. Absolutely nothing for the day. And in a game of 27 outs and where the Cubs are at, they're not good enough to give up at-bats for certain players anymore. Yeah. And this is a division run. We should not be giving up at-bats for guys that we think can run into one every 10, 15 games. It's just not worth it anymore. It's just not. They shored up his position because he didn't shore up the position himself. So what's the point of keeping him on the roster? I'm about him and Barnhart both are 2 of them that I sit and I say, why are these guys still here?
Yeah. I'm just hoping that maybe come September when they have call-ups that somebody comes up and just wows us, because I agree. I don't understand why Patrick's still on this roster. I feel like anytime Ross decides to put Patrick into the lineup, and I've been a Patrick Wisdom guy, like I love Patrick Wisdom, but it's just, he's not cutting it right now. His first half wasn't bad. Now I feel like it's like if you put Patrick Wisdom in the lineup, just mark it out and put Nick Madrigal there instead. At least you're going to more than likely get a ball in play. Yeah, he's not going to hit the ball out of the park, but so what? It's like you said, that one home run every 15 games. Whoop-de-doo. Not really cutting it. So yeah. And once again, this is the time of the season. This is the time of the year where we can't be giving up at bats like that. That's two, like you said, 2 at bats right there that just basically pointless outs. Can't have it.
Yeah, I don't know. I that lineup I just did not get tonight. But well, from one puzzling thing to another, Drew Smiley, although I do agree, I think that his time in the rotation has come and passed. I agree with what they're doing with that. They moved him to the bullpen, and this has been something that I've been interested to talk to you about, because you're a baseball nerd like I am who looks at the splits and looks at the stuff and tries to weigh it as. And I know the Cubs don't have a lot of lefties in their pen, but his splits against lefties are worse than his splits against righties. So unless they're going to use him as a reverse split guy, I don't get it. What's your opinion on Drew Smiley in the bullpen?
It's like I asked you earlier. I think we tweeted about it. This right here goes back. It takes me back to the trade deadline, and it makes me ask the question: why didn't we go after another arm? Why? It could have been anybody. I don't care. Why didn't we go after it? Especially, wasn't Stroman on the IL right before the deadline?
He pitched after it. He pitched the day of the deadline, and then they DL'd him right after.
We've seen, especially with Smiley, like you've seen how Smiley's been ever since what, May?
Ever since the perfect game where he got tackled by Yan Gomes.
It's like you've seen that snowball just getting bigger and bigger. It's like, why didn't we sign anybody? Why didn't we go after anybody? One or two guys, I don't care. But it's scary, especially with what you said about his numbers against lefties. So I don't know. I hope maybe he figures something out. I tell you this, his leash isn't going to be very long. I mean, hell, look at Wesneski tonight, which, by the way, Kyle Hendricks looked pretty good tonight, but Wesneski, I think he faced 4 batters, and Ross was like, no, couldn't get an out. No, not having it. So, yeah, Drew Smiley may be in the bullpen, but don't think that, oh, he's in the bullpen, he's going to try to figure stuff. There's not time. There's no time right now to, quote unquote, figure stuff out.
No, you got to figure.
I mean, the leash is very, very short right now. So Drew, man, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully he figures something out being in the bullpen, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. I want to say he was a bullpen guy a little bit in Atlanta, maybe.
Yeah, he might have been. I'd have to go back and look at the splits for those. I wonder if his splits are better when he gets moved to the bullpen.
Maybe. Like I said, I have to go back and look at that too, but I want to say he maybe made a couple bullpen outings with Atlanta, maybe a spot start here and there, but yeah, it just makes me scratch my head as to why there wasn't another move for a starter, especially right now.
Yeah, just a depth guy, like another arm.
Yeah, just a depth. And I get it. We've got Javier Assad. We've got Wesneski. We've got even Killian, who it seems like he's going to be – he looked good the other night in his role that he had. Maybe if that works, great. But –
that's who I wanted them to bring in today instead of Wesneski.
Yeah.
I wanted them to –
Another depth guy, another Keegan Thompson-like guy, which, by the way, what's the update on him right now?
He had a nice outing tonight, actually. A little bounce back item tonight in Iowa, which, hey, that's good news.
Yeah, to be honest,
that's good news.
He does it again. It wouldn't shock me if we see a Caleb or a Keegan Thompson return. Because right now, anything helps.
Because we were talking about this in the Slack chat too, about how with Jensen getting claimed, the Cubs now have a 40-man spot open. So yeah. I wonder,
are they at 39 or 30? They may be at 38 right now.
Yeah, I haven't checked it in a couple days, but I know for a fact they got the one open. So
Yeah.
it makes you think maybe they got something up their sleeve. Maybe they're going to add somebody that we don't expect to the 40-man. I do know that it won't be anybody who's probably Rule 5 eligible, probably. That way they can keep that spot open if they need it. Now teams try to operate below the 40-man for the most part, because if they do want to claim somebody or add somebody to the 40-man for the stretch run, they have the flexibility to do it. There's a lot of – I wonder if we're going to start to get – and I'm not going to predict it, but I think soon we may get a 40-man roster, a little fat trimming, where they're going to try to, pass some guys through to open up a few more slots. Because I wonder who we'll see, coming up in September and later in August when they have this long stretch of games. Because I think that there's a good possibility that we see some names we maybe forecasted we wouldn't see until 2024. But in the midst of a playoff push, if you have some talent down there, you might as well expose it to some of this, and also maybe you can help you win. So,
and like you said, with the schedule coming up that we have, I don't want to contradict myself, but it's not that we have a huge leash, but on the kind of bright side, and I don't want to say this and then piss off the baseball gods, but the nice thing is, at least this month the schedule isn't awful, which hopefully that means the offense is going to open up and just explode. And with that being said, maybe that might help out some of these guys that we may call up, or a Drew Smiley. Maybe it gives him a chance to see if he has it from the bullpen, and guys like Caleb Killian and Keegan Thompson and Javier Assad and all them. So maybe this schedule helps that out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to have some rest. In the next 21 days, they have 4 off days, which is nice for a team that's played some high-leverage baseball. But also, you just hope that they stay hot. Tyler, we're going to close the door on some of the roster moves and the game tonight. Any thoughts for the series, just to close it out, or anything like that? I want to put this comment up from Scott. The Umps suck, the Mets suck, bunting sucks. Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. It's just a lot of frustrating tonight. And the umpires were pretty brutal over the course of these 3
They
games.
were. Just a closing thought. Hey, it was nice to see Seiya come back, 3 hits, triple and a homer. Hopefully that may be the start of something good for him.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get going. That lineup then will expand to be even deeper than it is right now.
Yeah.
The Cubs have an off day tomorrow, so there will be no Cubs on tap, but we will be talking a little bit right now about the 3-game set with the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll first preview Friday's game. We'll go into Saturday and Sunday, but a lot of J names, as Justin Steele will pitch in this series tomorrow. On Friday first, it'll be Javier Assad, and Jameson Taillon will round it out on Sunday. Friday's start for Toronto, the starter is TBD, so don't expect them to know or announce anybody until probably late on Thursday.
Randy Johnson.
Yeah, it's gonna be Randy Johnson. That would be brutal and probably not good for our Cubby Hearts on Friday. But going into the series against the Blue Jays a good team. Tyler, what do the Cubs got to do to win 2 out of 3 or even sweep the series? Make up a little bit for that Mets series loss.
Really would like to see Assad have a pretty lengthy outing. Going to need it. Because I know his last outing, I think he threw just 3 1/3. If there's a game in this series that the bullpen's going to be used or taxed, it's going to be. But it sucks to say this, it's going to be the first game. But with that being said, you don't want to tax your bullpen the first game, and then, God forbid, Justin Balls of Steels has a hiccup, or Jameson Taillon hits a bump in the road. So I would really like to see Javier Assad. Give me 6 innings at least. Give me 6. Go into the 7th. Screw it. I think that would be really nice to see. Toronto's a tough place to play, man. Toronto is a tough atmosphere to play in. So unlike tonight, you've got to capitalize offensively. You've got to capitalize on opportunities when you get them. Because, like I said, it's Toronto, man, and man, that place is and they're good right now. Toronto's a good team right now, so the place is probably going to be packed. And when that place is packed, it's loud. Yeah, hopefully a long outing for Assad. That'd be really nice to see.
Yes, it would. Obviously, Cubs get the off day on Thursday. Luckily, they do have the off day on Sunday or on Monday as well after this series. So if they do dump into that bullpen on the first day, at least we know there is an off day that's coming up that can reset it again. But I agree with you, Tyler. It'd be nice to see all three of these starters go deep into their games. Quality starts are the stat. That's the one that you look up at the end of it. And most of the time, you get a quality start, you're going to win a baseball game. I agree. I think it's all about handling the atmosphere. I agree with you wholeheartedly about how tough it is to play out there. If they can go out and just take advantage of the opportunities they get, I think we'll look up at the end of this series, and it'll be 2 out of 3 or hopefully 3 out of 3 to make up for this Mets series debacle. Tyler, before we get out of here, I want to ask first, fly the W player of the game.
For Toronto?
For Toronto. Need Toronto.
I'm going to go. He didn't have it tonight. I think he bounces back on Friday. I'm going to go with Dansby Swanson.
I like that pick a lot. I like Dansby. I think I am going to say I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here, and I'm going to go with Christopher Morel after tonight's terrible at bat. I think he'll be in the lineup on Friday and looking to produce for the teammates again. Maybe he gets a hold of one out there and does his best. Batista, little rendition, throwing the bat back towards the dugout or up in the air. It'd be nice to see some bat flips in Toronto from the Cubs this weekend. Cubs on Tap, as always, is powered by On Tap Sportsnet. We are one of 2 Chicago Sports Cubs podcasts here on the network. The Dinger Boys do a great job on Mondays. Make sure you're heading over to Dingers and taking in all of their content. It's wonderful. Bulls, Bears, Hawks, White Sox, Bears flying around in training camp. It's coming, man. Football is on its way. And make sure you guys are heading over to the golf side of it, too. Going to be doing some interesting Olympia Fields BMW Championship coverage over the course of the weekend. They do such a great job with the golf stuff and the betting stuff. So make sure you're heading over there to get some of your golf stuff and get some winners. Some real winners for next week, man. It'd be nice to see one of those guys pick the winner of the tournament like they normally do. Man, what a show. It's always great to get on the mic with you, Tyler. A little bit under 40 minutes. Thank you for joining me tonight. And unfortunately, it's Cubs loss, but let's get out of here the only way we know how.
Fuck the Cardinals. Fuck.
And let's go Cubbies.